morning, I hope you're all well. Now I have two things I want to talk about today. The first is Volvo and their venture into electrification. The second is, well, more of a question really. Are companies like Volvo ultimately going to be the downfall of Tesla? Now they may sound like two very big topics to you, but don't worry, I am going to try and keep this as succinct as possible. So let's look at Volvo first of all. And the reason I want to talk about them is because, well, in my opinion, I'm not seeing an awful lot about what they're doing going forward. Now, they've made some announcements and they've spoken about what they expect to achieve over the next few years. But unlike the likes of Volkswagen, who seem to be shouting about, well, the same bit of information over and over again, and we keep seeing their bus rolled out and the great new replacement for the Golf that's going to be electrified. Well, we're not getting any of that from Volvo. What we're just getting is some very quiet information released to the press with what look like, from my point of view, over the next few years, some quite high expectations. So what they've said is that from 2019, every single one of the cars they sell will be electrified in some way. Now, I'm not going to get overly excited about that. We've heard that from other car manufacturers, but they are, I would say, slightly ahead of the game, certainly compared to a lot of the other very, very big manufacturers. The majority of those cars are going to be hybrids, of course they are. But from my point of view, the excitement is in the 5 that they've announced that will be full electric cars. Of those 5 electric cars, 3 of them will be based on the compact modular architecture, the CMA, that they are using for their smaller to mid-size vehicles. So things like the XC40 will be based on that architecture. And that's the chassis and the general underpinnings of the vehicle. We spoke about it not so long ago with Volkswagen and their announcement. It gives the company a structure to build a wide variety of their vehicles on, so they can be assembled at the same plants. It keeps the costs down, etc. So 3 of those cars will be built using that architecture that they've got for their other vehicles. The other 2 are going to wear the Polestar badge. Now, I'm sure you've heard the Polestar name mentioned because, well, that's something that we've seen in the press, that Volvo are going to use their Polestar branding in order to release high-powered or luxury electric vehicles. The history of Polestar is a little bit mixed, if you like. Ultimately, it's their sports division. We've seen touring cars with the Polestar badge on. It's that kind of, what do they call it? Renegade blue, I think they call it. That unusual blue colour that they use to denote that this is a sports or a high performance car. Now, that's been backwards and forwards a few times, depending who's owned it. There's been some quite high profile names that have owned it. But ultimately, when Geely bought out Volvo, along with a load of other car manufacturers, they bought the rights to the road going arm, if you like, of that Polestar brand name. So the motor racing brand name was changed and they've carried on. Geely have bought the rights to the road going version, which allows them to put the blue badge on the grille, and I guess it denotes for them that this is something a little bit more special, something a little bit more high performance. And they've said that every vehicle that is launched under that Polestar name will be electrified. And I mean BEV electrified. Battery electric vehicle, full electric vehicle, not a hybrid. It will be a proper electric vehicle. And I think on the back of it being performance, we can expect that to be more of a luxury brand, and obviously the price tag will go with it. So what are we looking at timescale wise? Well, 2019, as I said, is when all Volvos will be electrified in some manner, in some way, mild to full electric vehicle. Between 2019 and 2021, they will have all 5 under the Volvo and Polestar brand vehicles, full electric vehicles, will be available to buy. So within a few years, we're going to see all of them, which is, from my point of view, brilliant news, because that will give us a really good range of vehicles at some really good price points. And interestingly to me, that CMA that they're going to base their small to mid-range vehicles on is very similar in size to a Tesla Model 3. And that brings us really nicely onto how the likes of Volvo are going to compete with Tesla. And are they going to actually take sales away to an extent that Tesla won't be able to make a profit anymore? Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, hang on, isn't that a really odd thing to say in a month that Tesla have just announced that they've turned a profit, the Model 3 production is skyrocketing, and there seems to be no stopping what they're doing and what they hope to achieve. They certainly seem to be on track for what they have announced they will do. So why am I saying this now? Well, this stems back to some months ago when I went to the Milton Keynes Experience Centre and I picked up the Tesla Model S and I had it for a week. Whilst I was at the Experience Centre, they had a Volvo hybrid there, and this is where my link comes in. You see, seamless. I had a little sit in that vehicle. Now, when I sat in it, it was when I returned the Model S. So I'd been in the Model S all week. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved it. And when I first got into that car, looking at the huge screen and the technology in it, I liked pretty much everything about it. But there were some niggly points in there that I felt, for the money that you would spend on a car like that, shouldn't be there. Having returned it, I had a look around the showroom, and I think, and I might be wrong, I think it was an XC40. I didn't look, all I did was open the door and got in it. Now, it wasn't a full EV, of course it wasn't, it was a hybrid. But the second I sat in that car and shut the door, the difference was incredible. I noticed a huge change in the cabin environment, how that felt. First of all, very luxurious, very quiet, very sophisticated, I guess. Now, I know perhaps it's a different type of car for a different type of person, but my point here is that Volvo have been about for a very, very long time. What they make is very, very good quality vehicles, and that shone through when I sat in that car, having just stepped out of a Tesla. My problem with Tesla, and it makes it sound like I have a huge issue, I don't. I feel like I always have to quantify what I'm saying whenever I say anything negative about Tesla. I like them. I like everything they do. I like everything they stand for. The fact that they effectively like an open source company. They will allow their technology to be used by anyone. I like all that. What I'm struggling with at the moment is what it costs to buy one of their cars with the niggles that come with it. Now, there's no other car on the market at the moment that is a full electric vehicle that can compete with it. So everybody, me included, I would suggest, would be very keen to go and buy a Tesla. And you would put up with those niggles. Now, I know people that have had more than niggles, and certainly Phil, one of my subscribers, he often updates me with things that's going wrong with his Model S. He's currently having a heater issue, and it looks like he's probably going to sell it after years and years and years of problems and replaced vehicles and all sorts. But that's one person. We can always find a negative person somewhere that will talk down the brand and what they've got. I'm sure, well, I know, there are thousands of very, very happy customers that have never had a problem. But of the two Teslas that I've spent any time around, the first was that Model S. It made some funny noises. Things like the screen would go blank and freeze, and you'd have to reset it while you were driving. That I didn't think was acceptable in a vehicle that is supposed to be state-of-the-art and cutting edge. The second one was a Model X, which, when I sat in it, we could see wires between the pillars. No great shakes, of course it's not. Of course it's not a big issue. But again, for a Model X costing that sort of money, I don't want to see wires, I want it to be immaculate. And that's what you get from manufacturers that have been about for decades. Now, that's not to say that Tesla can't get there. But in the short term, my worry for Tesla is that the likes of Volvo, Mercedes, BMW are going to start releasing these very high spec electric vehicles with architecture that they've developed over decades. And that should make for a very, very nice, very luxurious vehicle that competes on price with Tesla and perhaps even undercuts them. Can Tesla get through that and survive? I hope they can. And the reason I hope they can, the reason I think they can, is because we've seen the evolution in Tesla over the last few years has been so fast that I think they can keep up, but they cannot take their eye off the ball. So where does that leave Tesla now? Well, I'd like to think it leaves them in a very strong position. As I said, they've developed a number of vehicles very, very quickly and have been very successful in what they've done. They've dragged the market kicking and screaming into the future, and they've opened up, for me, the whole world of electric vehicles, because without them, I honestly don't think we'd be where we are today. They've had a lot of investment in the past from various motor manufacturers. Now, not all of that has stayed around for various reasons, but we see there's still today the likes of Daimler, or Daimler, however you want to pronounce it. They've said, well, whilst they're not looking to invest financially in Tesla, they would look to have some sort of arrangement, partnership, deal with them to help develop both their brands. So if you've got somebody like that that's prepared to work with you and your concerns are around quality of build and fit, well, I don't think there's many better in the industry than Daimler to help you out. So I honestly think that Tesla will come through this. I think they can evolve quick enough to get to a point where they can compete with these existing manufacturers to actually produce luxury vehicles without these niggles. It's up to them now, and well, let's be honest, you would be a brave person to bet against Elon Musk with his ambition and drive. If anyone can make them successful, of course it's going to be him. So that's just my views on it. What do you think? Are Tesla a dying brand? Have they had their heyday and are we now going to see them swamped by the big guys? Or are they really still at the start of something very new? And are they still finding their feet but evolving at such a speed that they could come up to, compete with, and perhaps overtake some of the big manufacturers that we see today? Be interesting to hear your views. Pop something in the comments below, and I look forward to answering and discussing it with you over the coming week. But for now, thanks ever so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.